Hello, my name is Voya and welcome to my deep guide and to a very anticipated video for me and for you guys as well, because we have it here. It is the Boox Go 10.3, the 300 ppi not front lit device from Boox. I am really excited about this device, mainly because it has potential, strong potential, if they've done it right, to be a really game-changing and a very important device on the overcrowded e-ink marketplace. My expectations and hopes are high for this device, and let's see what the unboxing and the first impressions actually reveal. And before we do that, two things. First, this device has been kindly sent to me by Boox. I don't get to keep it, I get to forward it when I'm done with it, or buy it if I want to keep it for myself, then I buy it from them. Boox doesn't get to see the videos before you guys see it, they don't get to have any input or anything like that. That's a standard set of rules here on My Deep Guide. And the second thing is that if you do value the independence that My Deep Guide has and my work that I deliver to you guys, then you can head on to mydeepguide.com/shop and check out the MDO or MMP. MDO is My Daily Organizer, hyperlinked PDF file that helps you organize all of your professional or personal yearly, quarterly, monthly, weekly, daily needs. And MMP is My Deep Guide Meeting Planner, also a hyperlinked PDF file that helps you centralize, simplify, and organize all of your meeting planning needs. If either of these or both sound interesting to you, you can head on to the playlists that are linked in the description below and check out more information, see if this is for you or not. Either way, purchase of these products directly helps support the independence of My Deep Guide, so I thank you. And now, without further ado, let's go! Alright, and here is the Boox Go 10.3 cover. That's the one that we all want to see, right? No. And they always have black covers in their boxes. I was like thinking, yeah, it would be nice if the box was actually of a light color. I open up the shipping box and then I see this and it's like, okay, cool, that's really good. I gotta say that I haven't been excited about a device like this in a long time, and I really can't wait to actually open it up. I had to wait for like about 2 days since this arrived. This is the second day because I had some other obligations and I was really itching to open it, but I normally open the device here when doing this video, and yeah, finally we're there. So just a quick recap, what we're talking about here is yeah, the specs of the Go 10.3. So what we have here is a 10.3-inch HD car touchscreen, monochromatic, with 300 ppi on a 10.3-inch. Really exciting. Touch capacitives and stylus, Wacom stylus, of course. Octa-core CPU with 4 GB of RAM, 64 GB of storage, not expandable. Android 12, wireless Wi-Fi, all standards, plus Bluetooth, USB-C with OTG support. It has a microphone, it has speakers, it has a power button, 3700 milliamp battery, and a size of 4. Are they saying 5 or 6 millimeters here? I think they said 4.6 millimeters. And that should make it the thinnest tablet in the world, apparently, because it should be 0.1 of a millimeter thinner than the Remarkable 2. Let's open it up and see what all the hubbub is about, bubbed. Right, normally I would just proceed to open this, but already here they are announcing something different, something special, because the box surface, I don't know if the camera can pick it up, but the box surface has this paper-like, leather-like kind of structure to it, which is, yeah, already kind of giving you an impression, hey, this ain't the business as usual kind of stuff. This is a little bit different, so let's proceed. Oh, I'm excited. I really am excited about this. Ooh. This is looking really beautiful and really familiar. Okay, let's see what we get as extras in there. We get the USB-C to USB-A cable. We get the standard pen, so no eraser, but it's not white, it's actually grayish color to match the device, which is a very nice touch to see. And we get some supporting documentation. Device, pen, cable, supporting documentation. Not interested in those. Let's see what's it about. All right, and let's slide it out of the protective cover and see what do we have here. Okay. Well, I was thinking that the images were simply maybe misleading in some way, and that when I see this device that it's going to offer some meaningful differentiation from the Remarkable 2. But yeah, in reality, when I see it, yes, I can see that there's some differences. For example, the bottom bezel, even though it is wider than the rest of them, so it's not square like you do have on the Note Air 3 or the Note Air line, it is wider down here like it is on Remarkable 2. Yeah, this side line, of course, different color and a little bit more narrower, and this is also a little bit more narrower. So I think I'm gonna, of course, put the Remarkable 2 next to it and see. So there are some small differences, but the overall trend is like this. This looks, if it didn't say Boox here, I would say, hey, this is Remarkable 3. That's how similar it is. So that is the first impression. The second impression is that this is impressively built, and this finally doesn't feel like a Android tablet, right? This feels like a paper tablet type of slate. The back is absolutely gorgeous. The build quality is beautiful. I love this side here. This is really, really gorgeous. You have the all metal edge on the side here. You have the plastic on top, and I guess the glass panel there. And then we have this beautiful, beautiful kind of, I don't know, paper-like, faux leather-like type of feel, which is definitely not slippery, but most importantly, it again adds to that overall feeling of, hey, I'm not just handling Android tablet here or a piece of tech here. This is something different. It feels more analogish, if you wanna use that kind of terms. So let's see the build quality here, because when you make something really thin, it can maybe bend, but this looks very, very sharp. There's a tiny, tiny bit of bending going down here, but really, really small. And here as well looks good. There is a small, extremely small concave kind of bend here, so that is something that I can see. One thing that I did react to immediately was that although this is truly a beautiful feeling type of thing, it is glued onto the back. There we go, and you can see it. And this, see here, there's a sharp edge here that you definitely feel. So you have this beautiful rounding, really beautiful rounding, only to run into a sharp edge here when holding the device. Not a major point of concern at all, but if we are talking about a fine type of design and everything, I think that yeah, I would have rather had 4.7 millimeters and an indentation here that allows for this application of this on top to be in line with the edge, and then we don't have it actually sticking out, as you can see here. Yeah, you can stick it sticking on top, or that the manufacturing process is that this is rounded and that we don't have that edge. But as it is now, yeah, I can feel that edge on all sides. Here it is done well. So here they have accommodated for that, and the frame actually goes and is in line with the surface. Unfortunately, it is not in line with the surface back here. So that's yeah, that's something that I definitely react to, and it's not a pleasant sensation. It is something that's present and not pleasant. The screen surface seems to be very similar to the one on the Note Air 3 and the 3C. Layout of the device: we have the power button on top, nothing on one side. We have stereo speakers and microphones and the USB-C on the bottom, and nothing on the other side. Boox logo and a white sideline here. Matching gray that matches the grayness, or tries to match the grayness of the screen, which is a really nice touch. That's something that I really do appreciate. And as I've already commented, a beautiful spine here, metal spine, metal-like spine here on the back. I guess this is where the signals actually, wireless signals go through. And yeah, we have this surface on the back. This is not an easy device to slip. Yes, it does not have slip feet, but it doesn't need it because it does have this whole surface that's anti-slip, which is really cool. So the overall impression is really impressed. I really am impressed. It's not perfect. I would not characterize it perfect, and this is the main point of concern, that for me is not perfect, because when you look at something like this, that's it immediately, as soon as I held it, I felt something sharp. And when you're handling a device like this, that's not what I would expect. And the second point is that even though the build quality is really good, there is a tiny bit of concavity here. So the pen goes to the side, and the magnet is the magnet could be better, because yeah, you can just do this and it already falls. So it's not exactly clear where you should hold it, because this one is super weak, this one is super weak, and there's just one like Goldilocks. Oh, this one's a bit stronger, but even there it's not that good. So the holding of the pen is not that great. And also yeah, the off-white, even though it's nice, it doesn't actually match the color here. So I think that a little bit more impression or more effort could have been invested into that to make it happen. And also, because the device is so much thinner than the pen and the magnet is not that great, the snapping, I don't know, it doesn't feel natural. That's the best I can actually characterize it. It doesn't feel natural to use it in. It doesn't feel natural to be in this position. The writing feel is very nice. They might be employing that same thinner glass on top, like on the Note Air 3C, because I really like the feel here. So we'll see how it actually performs. All right, so first power up, no front light here. So the things that I'm going to be looking at are definitely okay. So first power up, what do you need more, or what's going on? Come to think of it, this one didn't have an image. Maybe it's super depleted battery. All right, so I've charged the device up. It was the case that it was actually fully empty, which is rare and unusual, but yeah, everything works fine once I did that. I updated it to the latest update that it prompted, and I just went to Google Play Store, logged in, downloaded Google Drive, Kobo Books, so that I can yeah, log in, get the resources, so that I can test some things out and then show you guys how it works. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So I'm ready to start the initial setup, and before I even start using a Boox device, there's a couple of things that I always do. This is just my own personal preference. I don't like the navigation ball at all. I really don't want to have any kind of distractions, and that means that I'm gonna mute the notifications and I'm gonna put the device into do not disturb mode. Location tracking is off by default, so that's good. and everything else seems to be a-okay. So very quickly, I'm first gonna go through just a couple of documents here, just so that we can see how does this 300 ppi screen fare and what does it do. And then I'm going to do some writing tests, and that's going to be it for first impressions, because the whole point of this is to open up, do this, and make sure that I can start properly testing this device and share you my first impressions. Because it is so similar to the Remarkable 2 design, and there's no question about it. It's a little weird to actually perform all of these actions, have a Google Play Store and have all of these interactions and the device performing as it does in a really, really good way, but coming from a format that looks so much like a Remarkable. Because Remarkable is like, for 4 years I'm associating this type of look to the limitations that the Remarkable has, because whenever I approach it, I adjust my expectations accordingly so that I know what to expect. And this is playing a trick on my mind, because yeah, it's more than what I expect, and I have to, it's very tricky, because I have to adjust my expectations and remind myself that this is a Boox device and review it from that perspective, and not from the perspective that my eyeballs are telling me that I'm doing. So it's a very, very strange sensation. Nothing bad about it, really good. It's just a little bit confusing until I get used to it, I guess. So what I'm gonna do is just a couple of initial setups here. So I'm gonna make sure that we don't have page break lines or document boundaries, and that's that. So now I can go to styles, and then I can fit width. It just works. It's so weird to see all of this in this format as it is. It's quite exciting. Now, first things first, and let's not beat around the bush. This device is excellent. I mean, I can already see it from here. The 300 ppi screen, I've done a video on that, and yes, it doesn't make such a huge difference, but in this combination it is something that is very, very nice. You can see that the sharpness is really, really good. Now, I don't know if this sharpness of the characters and the contrast is because of the screen density, or because the screen itself, because it's a newer panel, that it has more precision and it has more abilities to actually deliver a better contrasting and more precise image. Obviously there's going to be some difference with the resolution, but I do invite you to check the video that I made on how much the 300 ppi does make a difference. Now, for me, this is the very first time that I was able to actually witness a 300 ppi screen without a front light and without a Kaleido filter on top. If you have a Kaleido 3 screen panel on top, that you can forget about the 300 ppi. It doesn't matter, because the passive stencil on top just causes all sorts of distortions to the image clarity. When you have a front light on top, like you do on the Kindle Scribe, then you are adding a little bit of distance, and then when you add a paper-like film on top that causes refraction, that also will cause a more significant distortion of the image underneath, because that's how physics work. Because if you have an imperfect surface on the top, the ray of light goes through it, it bends, then hits something, and it reflects back something, meaning the content of the screen, and then when it reflects back, it has a distance to travel which is required for the front light, and once it does, it bends again, and then you can get inconsistencies in what is reflected back to your eyes. Without having the front light, and by minimizing that distance really, really significantly, because please do check how close to the surface of the screen this content is. That is why you don't have a front light, because that is one giant advantage. And this is now just me thinking out loud. I haven't done tests, but this is what I'm thinking. This is going to be my supposition, and I'm going to do tests to actually see. What I think that I'm reacting to is the sharpness of the screen is that because we don't have as much distortions as we do on the Kindle Scribe. My impression here is that this, first of all, doesn't feel like a screen. It doesn't feel like an Android tablet. It feels like an e-paper device. And that is something that Boox has not had ever. This is the very first Boox device that I've ever experienced that feels like an e-paper slate and not like an Android tablet with an e-paper screen. And that to me is a huge advantage. The reflectivity is really excellent. You can't beat the closeness of the content when it gets close to the surface of the screen. You just can't beat it. There's something about it that just makes it feel more direct and more there, because it physically is there. So for me, that is a huge plus right off the bat. The second thing is that they really managed to very closely match the color of the edge to the color of the screen. In these super hyper lit conditions, you may notice that there is a difference, but as soon as I take it out of this hyper lit condition kind of thing and into a normally lit room, the edges that you actually see here basically kind of fade out. And again, when you combine that with the closeness of just how close the content of the screen is to the surface, it just becomes like a really nice thing. And the thinness is gorgeous. It's really gorgeous to use. The ability to actually have all of these things on this type of format is quite something. The display is impressive. I'm sorry at the angle now, but I am looking at it now because I want to check it. It's first impressions for me as well. But this screen is really impressive. I mean, it's very lovely quality here. And for me, actually better quality. This first impression, it's crisper and sharper than what I've seen on the Kindle Scribe so far, and it cannot be compared to the color devices with Kaleido 3 that have a 300 ppi like Note Air 3C and Tab Ultra C Tab Ultra C Pro, because of that Kaleido 3 stencil on top. So first impressions are extremely positive. Let's go to fast refresh mode and see what do we get here. Yeah, okay. Does it have an AI smart scribe? Yes, now I've learned when I get some kind of stuff. Okay, do we want to disable everything from the... Yeah, okay, so let's see. Okay, so the flipping is a little... The refreshing is great, but the responsiveness is a little bit off. Granted, I haven't restarted it after it did the update, and sometimes I did notice that after a reboot, that if I reboot the device after an update, then yeah, the performance actually can get to be smoother. This is good and this is okay, but it does have this little, see, wait, think, sometimes think, sometimes don't think. So something that I'm going to be definitely checking out. Now the benefit of a 300 ppi is that if you have that deep of a resolution, you can switch to a refresh mode that lowers the resolution. You'll still have a larger resolution displayed on the screen. And that's actually what we get here in speed mode. There is a degradation of the characters, but it's not severe, and it's not as severe as we will get it on a 227 ppi on a Note Air 3, for example. So that is a practical example of the benefit of the 300 ppi. And I have to do a couple of settings. So for example, I want to turn on image smoothing so that we can have dithering, and eliminate color banding. I'm gonna lower the text enhancement because that's really bad as a default setting. It creates fuzziness and things that I don't like. And of course I'm gonna lower this contrast because it was way too high, as you've seen, and now so many details are allowed to actually pop back in. Okay, so let's see what refresh mode are we in. This is actually speed, so let's go into normal or maybe even regal. Doesn't matter. Let's go here and do depth refresh, and I want refresh on every step so that we can get to have a clear image here. Good. Very nice. Okay. So in these situations, I would increase contrast because you have very pale, tiny text against the white background. But generally speaking, this is really good quality of the image here. So the way I've configured it now is to basically display the best that the device can do, right? So it's a full-on depth refresh here. There will be zero ghosting here, and of course, when you start adjusting these things, the ghosting will increase, things like that. But this looks gorgeous. I mean, I don't know what is going on with this display, but this is insanely good. This is just, look at the crispness of these thin fonts here, and the lines and the details. It's quite something. I'm now really curious, like why do I get such a strong impression of the crispiness on this device, and I didn't get it when I was comparing Kindle Scribe with Note Air 3, for example, 300 versus 227 ppi. So I'm really curious, because I do see a difference here. Absolutely I do. Or that's my impression. My impression is strong, really strong, that I do see a difference here. Even in these situations, you can see it works very nicely. Okay, so well, definitely X. Oh my god, this looks good. I don't know, I am a sucker for the content being right there. That's why I love devices that do not have a front light. There is just something very different in the overall everything. And I'm really glad that they've done this with this device. It's so far really nice. All right, so let's go into the apps. Kobo Boox, how does it work with the comic books? So let's see here. Okay, so the same type of settings I have here for refreshing. Obviously no colors, but the content is beautiful to read. And yeah, I mean, for me this really works. And of course you can speed it up with different modes, so let's do that. So let's go. So this was as good as I can. When you increase the contrast, of course it's going to pop and it's going to be more dark. So let's go maybe speed mode with default settings, and then you have much more responsive whole thing. The contrast actually works well in this scenario because I really like how it pops everything here. The responsiveness is great. The ghosting, I can't really see any ghosting here, like genuinely can't. And what happens if we go to A2 mode? Well, it just degrades the resolution. There's no real benefit in this case. And of course this device also has the X mode, but that's not really that important because that's not what it's for. Ooh, this is good. I don't know if the camera can catch this, but in this instance, for example, the color here matches the whiteness of the screen so perfectly, and at this angle I don't see the edge at all. Is that it's and the image is so close to the surface that it really feels like the image is directly on the surface, and the crispness is amazing. And then you just have this white line on the bottom and this beautiful slate-like device in your hands. This is really impressive. I gotta say that this is deeply impressive. I'm starting to like this device a lot. Okay, I'm recording. I just wanna at this point I just wanna continue like using it, and I will as soon as I'm done with recording this. Okay, so we've done reader stuff. Let's get to the really important part, which is the writing experience. So let's get on that, shall we? All right, so this is the test that I was looking forward to actually doing, and I can safely say that I'm really happy how it turned out. First impressions are very positive. So we get the really good latency and really good speed that we've seen on the Note Air 3C, for example. As far as the writing feel goes and the surface, it's really lovely. I know that there's glass underneath it. I do know that because it is a Carta screen, but it really doesn't feel like it. Like only on the initial taps, when you lower the pen onto it, do you feel that kind of level of hardness. But if I compare it to the Remarkable, it's way softer and way smoother than the Remarkable 2, for example, and it does mimic the Note Air 3C, for example, which is, yeah, it does, and that's the feel that I like, except that it feels a bit better. I don't know why yet. I'll need to spend more time to actually understand it better, but it feels really good. Oh, that stupid AI thing, I really don't like it, because if you do this, which is great, then it should delete it. There we go. But sometimes if you have a habit of doing this, then it gets kind of confused and misinterprets that. Anyway, do we have the tilting enabled on the Go? Bizarrely, no. This is not a limitation of the device. This is not a limitation of the screen. This is just them not enabling it. And I don't know why. However, what we do have here is quite nice, and it feels really immediate and really good. The ink pen, because it, yes, so yes, okay, so pressure sensitivity is good and the contrast is beautiful. I mean, when I'm looking at this as a contrasting thing, it's just really nice. Now the last thing that I want to do is verify something, and it looks like the distance from the tip of the pen to the screen is really minimal. So I'm gonna try and capture it here so that you guys can see. I will of course measure this when I'm doing the in-depth review, but this is really good, and it feels just like you're writing on the surface of the screen. So I was hoping for these things, to be honest. I was really hoping that they would be able to deliver this kind of stuff, and that the elimination of the front light would bring all this there, and it did. Now, the negatives are going to be associated with the overall Boox UI and UX. However, this one is running 3.5.3 version, and I know that they've worked really a lot on revamping the UI and changing these things. So that's something that I'm going to be spending time as well reviewing and checking out, so that I can address these things and see how does the 3.5.3 platform reflect on the Boox device overall. But generally speaking, this is really impressive. The thing that I did not expect from this one, I expected it and I hoped that it would be great in the writing department, and it is. It really delivered. What I completely neglected to just even think about was how it would reflect for the reader side of things. And you do have like a Neo reader on this kind of platform, and I'm just blown away. I just want to use this now for reading and marking up and things like that. And luckily it's a Boox platform, because the Neo reader is my favorite one to work with because of the capabilities it has, and it just feels and looks so good. So yeah, that is quite a good first impression here. So the final thing, because before I wrap things up, there's two things. Well, first one is going to be the cover. So let's cover the cover, right? Cover is weird and not that great. The weird part is this. This flap, you can remove it or put it there, but it doesn't have really fixed spots. It kind of does, it fits around here, and then you can lose it. So yeah, so this is basically the cover. It's a magnetic cover here, and you just slot the device there, put this back in, and it's a very, very stylish and nice looking package. Let's put this, so the pen barely can fit, and yeah, it immediately will fall off, and I guess that's why you have this one, right? Maybe the idea is then you use that for that, and then when you, oh, it can work like this as well. Huh, cool. Actually, it's really strong. Hey, could you actually put this as a cover thing to use the pen like this? And maybe like this. I'm just playing around. Anyway, it has auto slip and auto wake function. Okay, it can flip back. Does it hold magnetically? No, but it's fine. It's relatively flat on the surface, so that's okay. Does it hold the device well? Can we lift it like this? Nope, we can't. Like this, we can. Okay, so how much of a... Okay, holds it really well. I can shake... Oh, okay. So I need to shake really a lot for it to let go. And for a magnetic cover design, that's actually quite good. I'm not a fan of this color. I think gray color would have went nicer with this on the insides. And then you have whatever you want on the outsides. As for the landscape orientation, so you can open it up and use it like this. Not a fan of that, especially not a fan of that after the brilliant cover that is available on the Note Air 3C and the Note Air 3, which allows for excellent landscape mode, but more importantly also an excellent portrait mode, which, considering that this device doesn't have an equal bezel all around the edges, it would really lend itself to be perfect to actually have that, but we don't have that. So that is the cover, and it doesn't add too much thickness, doesn't add too much weight, so that's perfectly fine. And now finally, let's bring out the inspiration for this device and just check them out back to back, like next to each other. What are the similarities and what are the differences in the design itself? All right, and here we are. We have the Remarkable 2 here, and we have the Boox Go 10.3 on the left hand side. It is heavily inspired by the Remarkable 2, but it is not a carbon copy. So at the very least we have that, but the inspiration and the look alikeness is really strong. Stronger with this device than any other on the market, let's put it like that. That being said, there are crucial differences and crucial similarities. Obviously, the crucial similarities are unequal bezel, so longer bottom side on the bottom. However, the Go 3 has a much thinner expansion, which makes it smaller of a footprint, which is really good to see. So it is smaller footprint than the Remarkable 2 is height-wise. The bezel around the edges is also thinner than it is on the Remarkable 2, so that makes it also, we'll measure, but I think it's going to be slightly narrower, and yes it is. So it is slightly narrower and less tall, and they say thinner. We will measure that as well. Then we have on the left hand side we have an extension, and here the similarity is that it is an added extension, but there's also a difference, crucially, that it is of course of the white color, it has the Boox logo on it, and it is thinner, and it's not made entirely out of metal. The whole thing about Remarkable is basically it has this whole spine here to resemble a notebook that then extends onto this metal frame that goes around it, and it just resembles a notebook with this very defined spine that goes all around the edge, and it gives it a very nice notebook look. Boox has a different approach, and it has this metal that simply goes all around uninterrupted around the sides of the device. So it doesn't have that notebook kind of approach. It just has a visual indication here on the side resembling that kind of approach. So there is that difference definitely between the two. If we flip them to the back, in the back they are quite different, and that's fine. I like both of them how they look like, but honestly in a day-to-day basis I think that I would prefer this, mainly because only if it had like the edges. I would use like a nail file if I own this device and very carefully just smooth the edge of this vinyl that's applied on the back to get rid of that thing that's kind of bugging me. But I think it's probably going to go away with use in about a month or two. It's naturally going to kind of dull itself out. But overall, I really prefer this way more than the slippery glass hardness of the Remarkable 2. It's lovely, but it's slippery and it has that I don't know, hardness and coldness. This is the complete opposite of that, and I do prefer it. So overall, is it a carbon copy of the Remarkable 2? No. Is it heavily inspired by the Remarkable 2? Yes. So I think that that's basically what it comes down to, and what I do like is that it's considerably smaller of a footprint for the same screen with a higher resolution, and that is really cool to see. Now let's get my calipers and establish first the base thickness, which is going to be the Remarkable 2, and then I'm going to compare that to the Boox Go 10.3 and see if it really is thinner than the Remarkable 2 is. All right, so we got 4.7 on the dot, which is a good thing to see because that's what is reported for the Remarkable 2. This one should be 4.6, so without moving anything or making any cuts, I'm simply gonna slot it here, press like I did with the Remarkable, and then carefully slot it out, and let's see, what do we get? Well, we do get 4.6. So, yep, 5 is too much, 6 is on the dot, and 7 is starting to move backwards. So this looks like it really is thinner by 0.1 of a millimeter than the Remarkable 2 is. And then finally, it's also the ergonomics between the two. Yes, it's lighter, and it just, the smaller footprint and it being lighter and all that kind of stuff, it just feels really good. And as far as reflectivity goes, definitely slight edge, I think, goes to the Remarkable, but it's not a huge difference, especially not when I'm looking at it here. But it is better, it's less defined and less intense on the Remarkable 2. So the reflectivity is better on the Remarkable 2. So let's get them back to their respective sides. So there you have it. That's the first impression of the the Boox Go 10.3. I am very much impressed by this. I just have to say that I'm really impressed by this, and I am glad that there are differences between the Remarkable 2 and the Go 10.3, because from the photographs initially, that was one of my worries, that it looked way too much, but it's not. It is heavily inspired, absolutely no question about that, but it is not a carbon copy of the Remarkable 2, so that's a good thing to see. All right, well, now I get to have the pleasure of actually testing this device, spending time with it, and yeah, testing it out and bringing you the in-depth review of it as soon as I can. No pun intended here. Go serious. There we go. I mean, this thing. So yeah, this thing is genuinely thinner by a smidge, but it is thinner than Remarkable 2, and it is currently the thinnest e-note device on the planet. and much more importantly, that lack of front light. It really, you can see that they've made so much effort here, because this feels like it's closer to the surface, that the content of the screen is closer to the surface than it is on the Remarkable 2. This is something that I'm gonna have to measure and compare, because that is a very strong impression that I'm getting here, and it's difficult to describe like the combination of all these things together. So 3 primary things that are really striking me when I'm trying out the Go 10.3 is, number 1, the object that I'm holding in a hand. Lightness, thinness, and this back here. Really lovely. Like, it just doesn't feel like a tablet at all. It feels like something else, feels like something nice. Then on the front, you have this matching kind of thing with the screen. So the screen is trying to fade out. It's not a full-on separate kind of entity. It's basically a part of this slate, and they managed to nail that really well on the Go, with the matching of the color and with the closeness of the content of the screen to the surface. So that's point number 2. And point number 3 is that 300 ppi, and the combination of all of this, it's just, I don't know if it's 300 ppi, but the crispness of the image quality, the end result, what I get to see is different. I didn't have chance, because I just unboxed it and I'm giving you my first impressions. So I didn't have yet a chance to evaluate what is it that gives me that impression, but that's something that I'm gonna try. I think that it's important to kind of understand, maybe not for the in-depth review, but afterwards when I'm comparing it to other devices, so that I can actually gain more understanding in why exactly am I getting such a strong impression from this device and not from Kindle Scribe, for example, which in theory it should be the same thing, but it so isn't. It's a really big difference. In case you haven't noticed, first impressions of the Boox Go 10.3, extremely positive. I'm gonna try and lower that first impression enthusiasm that this device gave me, to try and lower that down and increase the critical aspect as well to the whole thing, so that I can have both hats of, you know, subjective side and objective side while I'm doing the testing of the device. I'm gonna write down my comments as I go along so I don't forget them, and that I actually have the overall perspective of the whole device, so that when I bring the in-depth review to you guys, that it's as objective as I can possibly be. But yeah, I can already tell you it's going to be difficult, because this is one of those devices that not only is it gorgeous and it looks good and it brings new really good things to the table, but it also is a combination that it's something special. It's different. Like the Remarkable 2 was and is different, this is also different, and I'm happy to see that it is different than the Remarkable 2. I'm not perceiving it fully as a Remarkable 2, I'm perceiving it as something in the same family, but different. This is like a distant cousin of some sort. It's not a sibling or anything like that. So all of these things combined, I'm just really excited to see. And then when you actually put into context the price of it, it's mind-boggling. So yeah, I hope that you found the video interesting and or informative. If you did, please like and subscribe, and ding the notification bell in the description below to get notified when new videos come out on my deep guide. Stay safe, stay healthy, and see you in the next video. Bye!